Hey Dawn Legends, the Australia versus India 2024/25 Border-Gavaskar Trophy series this year. I can't wait for it. And I'm going to go through my analysis here. The keys for Australia, a little bit of the concerns for India. I won't give them, my thoughts on their keys to beat us, but I'll give the concerns for India there as well in this video. So to kick things off, Australia's keys to beat India in this test series. So number one, it's talking about getting the batters back to what worked for them in previous series. So last year and the last sort of 10 tests that Australia has played, a lot of the batsmen, which we'll see here in my analysis of them, have actually struggled a little bit. Their averages are a little bit lower, especially that of Marnus and Smithy, our two best players, well, in recent history anyway. Just for a few of those guys to get back to playing the ball late, under their eyes, being still at impact. If we can do that, I think that's the only problem at the moment in our Australian team is our players with their batting averages being that little bit low and a little bit frustrating for them as well compared to the averages that they've displayed across their entire career, which we'll get into as we get into the individual players. And number two, it's keeping the bowling lineup together. So hopefully no restings would be ideal in my opinion, and also hopefully no injuries. We're hoping that that's going to be the case across this series. We obviously saw at times when Nathan Lyon goes down or we lose one of our frontline quicks that it can be a little bit tough out there. Just letting teams get back into their rhythm. Opposition teams, opposition batting lineups get it back into a rhythm that they want. Especially in Australia, we know that there are a fair few runs available out here. And just not letting players get into form with a nice 80 or 100 and keeping them in a position where they're struggling a little bit, which we've seen with India, losing 3-0 to New Zealand. And number three, just don't give India an inch. They're coming off that bad series loss. They're going to be looking for signs of life. So for myself and my thoughts there, the chances, they need to be taken. There should be no easy paths for players to get to 10 not out very quickly and helping them feel good and settle into their innings. Now let's kick it off through our batting order, and it does look like Nathan McSweeney is going to end up as Usman Khawaja's opening partner. So we'll start with Usman, and some of the best things about him, he has terrific patience. You can see him have really long innings there where he puts together 100 off a tick over 200 balls, or he gets 100 off 190 or something like that, and it really sets up our innings very, very well. He has that top-notch pull shot. And when he's playing his best, he's very, very difficult to bowl to because he doesn't give those chances that some other players do. And over the last bunch of years, he's had an incredible time of it. But as I said there, with a few of these guys, they are struggling a little bit in recent history. And that is in test matches in Australia. It is also some test matches overseas as well. So this includes last year's series in Australia as well, when I'm looking at sort of the recent 20 innings, which is what we'll go through with all these players. So for Usman, he actually has an average of 34 versus India in 17 innings. So it's a decent little stretch of games now, and that includes some games in Australia along with games in India as well. But the big news here is that Usman has a 52.87 average in 62 innings in Australia. So that's massive news for Uzi and what he can do this season in our test summer. He averages 37.7 in his recent 20 innings, which includes 350s and 640s. So he hasn't had 100 in his past 23 innings. So he's definitely due for one, especially with hundreds just coming thick and fast for him in the previous few years for Uzi, and that's where his average overall has improved over the last bunch of years, getting him into the mid to high 40s there, rather than much lower before he got his opportunity to be our long-standing opening batsman. He's got all the experience. He's played a lot of matches now for Australia, and that's the big thing for the Australian batsmen is their experience. And we have a few guys that aren't averaging 40, or above 40 in their recent 20 innings, but we do know they have the pedigree, and Usman is one of those guys that I definitely think could turn around last year's form. And it's not terrible at all, 37.7. But for his lofty standards of the previous years, I know he'd love to get back to a 45 plus average at the top of the order, especially batting in Australia. Nathan McSweeney. Next up on the list, so a really super compact technique. I do like watching him bat, and him and Usman I think will work really well together. And it sounds that way from Usman coming out and saying that he doesn't need another batsman next to him to come out and score like one day batting pace or T20 batting pace. It's just about building that platform and laying that for the rest of the side. So I think Nathan is improving each and every season. He's got a nice hunger for runs. You can see there with his large allotment of hundreds that he's being able to accumulate over the past few years, and then especially to begin this season, which we've seen 200s for him and 250s in his last 5 hits for South Australia there. One of them including that 50 over match he picked up 130 odd, and then he got the 88 not out of his best score out of the 4 innings that he got against India A there in that recent little series, which looks like has given him an Australian test match berth, which is super exciting for him. But he has an average of 42 in one days, which is list A cricket there, and then 38 in the FC. If you look at that, that's the Sheffield Shield stuff for Nathan. So it's obviously not the most ridiculously high averages that you'll see, but no one is knocking the door down, and McSweeney is building each and every year. And if things go well for him, he has plenty of years left in the Australian Test team. Whereas you look at a lot of the guys on this list, they're in their mid to late 30s, and time if it's eventually going to be called on their careers, and it's good to get some guys in that are mid 20s or even younger to get some experience with these older guys. And I think that's where McSweeney works well. And if anyone, if there's any injuries to a Khawaja or McSweeney, or a lack of runs over this Test series, I think there's a chance they blood Sam Constas as well. So that whole saga there for guys like Constas and stuff, just the gauntlet that these guys are going through. Once it was trying to work out, they were trying to work out who was going to be the opener, and Fox Sports and these guys just look after these players, man. Like, one of the times it's like, and he's out early again, Constas, and the ball was missing leg by a couple of stump lengths, and it's just not going to help anyone, right? And then they finally score something, score really well in one of the games, and for Constas, for example, and they focused on him getting out for 12, but then he was currently, at the time that they posted that, he was 70 not out in the second inning. So it's just like, where's the posting on the good stuff? So I just think that they've got to look after these players, be critical on them, and how they actually go when they get an opportunity for Australia. If they come out and don't score very well, then completely fair that you can go in and talk about their techniques or talk about what's going on. But in the lead up to it, just let them do their thing, right? They're gonna have enough pressure. They have enough pressure when they bat in general, rather than getting it all from the media outlets as well. And I know if I was to ever whatsoever have gotten the opportunity to play for New South Wales or for Australia, I think there's enough pressure on yourself anyway. So weird one how that one's all played out, but that's the media for you. Marnus Labuschagne coming in at number 3. This is a very interesting one to talk about. Marnus, I think, God, he's such a good player to watch. When he's playing his best, he's so still. He plays the ball late, he leaves well, and when he does edge the ball, he did have a few that would go through sort of third and fourth slip, thicker edges, which is great, and he picks up 4 from him. And a lot of the time, those edges are going to the fielders right now, but he's not playing the ball as late as he was. And a lot of those nicks would actually go, bounce before the slips anyway and go through that gap and get 4. And when you're playing it a little bit earlier, the nicks do carry. And that's something that has been a little bit of a problem for Marnus in recent history. But when he's in that mode and he's playing the ball late, he's so impressive to watch. He leaves well, as I said, and he picks the right ball to score off. So Marnus is great viewing on that front. And when we look to him against India, it's a 45.5 average in 19 innings. So that's really nice overall. I'm happy with that. He averages 62.45 in Australia, and that does include some recent innings last season where he didn't actually average too well. So he did have an over 70 average in Australia before last summer. He averages 31.27 in his recent 20 innings, so that in itself for him would be an average that he wouldn't be proud of, and it's something that I think he can definitely turn around this season against India and get his name back on the map as one of the top 5 or 6 batters in the world, which he got into that sort of big 4 chat. And we'll speak about Virat a little bit later, but he's kind of fallen out of that as well in his recent form, but there's no word to say that these two can't come back straight into that and continue to pick up where they left off a couple of years ago. And he has no 100 in his recent 16 innings. So I think Marnus can have a great bounce back. This is the time to do it, Marnus, and I have full faith in him. Steve Smith, what a legend. His best attribute for me is his ability to manipulate the ball to wherever he wants. And he makes it very, very difficult for bowlers to be able to bowl to him because you're not sure exactly where you're going to put that. And a lot of time they seem to bowl well outside off, but when he's at his best, he's waiting for the ball and he's playing it under his eyes, which allows him to get his hands through the ball, which you can tell he's very much a handsy type of player, but it's because he plays it late that he can manipulate the ball wherever he wants, which is great. He has lots of patience and he has ability to push through for these massive scores, which gives him that awesome average overall. So he plays his best when he doesn't move across too much. There is a limit to how much he can move across. And we've seen his technique obviously started the trend for a lot of guys walking across. The main issue we see with Steve when he gets things wrong is his head is actually still moving at impact, and it's usually across his body. So he's falling across and doesn't have the balance at impact of the ball. So that's the big thing for Smithy. If he can get back to, yes, moving across, but when he's hitting the ball, his head's still and he's not falling over, that just allows him to see the ball a little bit clearer and play it that little bit later and absolutely dominate. So I can't wait to see Smithy do that this year against India. He averages 65.87 against India in 37 innings. So he has no problems against the Indian attack, whether it's the pace or the spin, and that's across playing in Australia and in India there. Averages 62.68 in Oz, so it's an incredible average at that. And he averages 33.6 in his recent 20 innings, so it shows how good that average would have been, well into the 60s overall. Now it's just dropped under that 60 mark, but still an incredible career so far. But no 100 in his past 22 innings, so 100% that's going to change. And you can see that now across those first three guys in Uzi, Labuschagne and Smith. They're all averaging under 40 at the moment, and I definitely think it's something that they will turn around over the next 5 test matches against India. Travis Head will come in next at number 5. He's the best player square of the wicket, on the offside especially, and he absolutely takes it to the opposition and can turn innings around in a second. When you've got Travis Head, you've got Mitch Marsh in this side. They're absolutely tremendous to watch as well in their own right. A little bit different to that of Marnus and Smithy with their accumulation of runs, but they do it in a slightly different way, and it's absolutely beautiful to watch at that. He averages 42 against India in 18 innings, 50.57 in Australia in his 40 innings so far, but a 28.25 average in his recent 20 innings, which includes 1 ton, 150 plus innings, and 3 40. So there's plenty of low ones in there to get him to a 28 average, unfortunately. And thankfully, he's been scoring runs in other formats in recent history. And I definitely think he'll turn this around as well. It just shows that a lot of the Australian batting lineup has struggled in recent history. And it's just one of those concerns that I have. If they can't turn it around, that India have a chance to win this series. But if they turn it around, I think Australia will be unstoppable, which will be awesome. As Travis said, excited to see him bat. He's my favourite to watch in this lineup. Very, very closely second is that of Mitch Marsh as my favourite to watch. An absolutely beautiful, free-flowing, aggressive batsman that takes it to the opposition with force. It's not much better viewing than when Mitch is on. I just love how much he hits through the ball, whether it's a directly straight bat, whether it's a slightly 45 angled bat there, when he pumps it through extra cover as well. He's terrific to watch. But you're looking at an 18 average against India in 10 innings, so that's something that he'll want to show that he is better than that. And obviously he's played a bunch of matches before this run of really good form in his previous life as a middle order batsman for Australia. So he'll want to fix that for sure. He averages 41 in Australia in his 28 innings so far, which batting at 6 is really, really nice. And then he averages 44 in his recent 20 innings, which includes 100, 650s, and 240s. So he is currently, out of the top 6 in Australia, has the best average in his past 20 innings, which is, good to see, because he absolutely deserves that. He deserves this spot. I do think he deserves a spot, even if Cam Green was available. Not sure how you would have played that one, whether McSweeney wouldn't have played and they maybe open with one of these guys, but it's very, very interesting to see how that one's going to play out. And I do hope Mitch Marsh continues to play really, really well. Moving on to Alex Carey. I just think he's a great batsman that can score anywhere around the ground. He sweeps well. I'm really ready for him to step up into a senior role in the middle of this order. He averages 24 against India in 8 innings as well, so very, very small sample size for him. 32 in Australia in 20 innings, and his recent 20 innings, he's averaged 28, which includes 450. So not the end of the world, but I definitely think you'd be hoping for a mid-30s to high 30s average from Carey, especially in Australia. I think it's obviously a little bit easier to score runs in Australia than some other countries around the world, especially being used to the pitches and the like. And this Perth pitch is going to be plenty of fun. It sounds like it's going to have good carry, good bounce, and it'll be good viewing starting on Friday. So I'm excited to see Carey. I think that he can continue to build on his start in his small enough amount of games that he's played so far. Mitch Starc, I actually got to meet him the other day. He's an absolute legend, very quiet, but just a normal dude. So yeah, it's great to have that. Seeing Mitch the other day. So shout out to him there for coming out and hanging out with us. He's our X factor, and he's been playing really well in recent history across all the formats there, which is good. And I think he plays his best in Australia overall. He's got 217 wickets, averaging 26, which is awesome, absolutely awesome for a pace bowler in Australia especially. But it's funny when you've got guys like Pat Cummins and Hazelwood, they make that average look pretty high, but that's just because they're two of the best bowlers that we've ever seen for Australia. But he actually has his worst record against India in 33 innings with a 38 average. But as I said, in Australia, he averages 26. And he has 16 wickets in his past 10 innings. So I definitely think that's something he'll want to improve on, just like the other batsmen in this side. So I wonder if Starkey or Cummins will bat first at 8 in this order. But right now I've got Starkey at 8, Pat Cummins at 9, after some terrific batting performances as well. He's our leader overall, and with the ball obviously there as well. And he's going to go a long way to winning this series if he plays well and if he's fit for all of those. So I definitely don't expect any restings for Pat unless we happen to have a big series lead, or if he's carrying a bit of a niggle or something like that in that scenario. But he averages 26 against India overall, so 12 better than that of Starc, and shows why he's going to be our absolute leader in this side. And he averages under 20 in Australia, 19.69 with the ball. Wow, he's going to be absolutely pivotal. He's an incredible bowler, one of the best we've ever seen for Australia. But you look at his last 10 innings, he actually has 17 wickets, if we're just looking at the last 10, which is fine. It's not his best, but he actually extended out a couple of more. In the last 12 innings, he had another couple of fifers. So he had 3 fifers in a row, dating back 12 innings. The 12th last, 11th last, and the 10th last there. So super excited to see Paddy. I put a little less emphasis on the bowlers just because I think we're a very settled unit and most of them are playing and bowling really well. Whereas the batters, it's our average that has dropped down a little bit. So Paddy, he's going to be our big leader. And it's great to have Nathan Lyon back after missing him, especially in that series against England over there. It really just ensures a feeling of safety for this squad in our bowling lineup. And he's seen everything and he's in good recent form, taking 25 wickets in his last 10 innings. He averages 31 versus India overall and 31 in Australia, which for a spinner, it makes sense. You'd like it to be in the late 20s at least, but we know that we've got the guys that can have a pretty low average and can keep the runs down a little bit in our pace bowlers, and it gives Nath the complete freedom to go out and spin a web and get some good bounce in Australia. Joshy Hazelwood, our two-pronged pace attack, Hazy and Paddy, our two right-handers, almost as important as Paddy, and will lead our attack from the jump there. He averages 27 against India, so only the one higher than that of Paddy, with taking 51 wickets. And he averages 23 in Australia, which is absolutely incredible as well. So him and Pat, I think, are going to be very, very important to get through India, get through their batting lineup on a regular basis, and has 29 wickets in his last 10 innings, which shows that Joshy is in the most form out of our bowlers at the moment, and it continues to just bowl incredible. We'll have Scotty Bowen and Josh Inglis, 12th and 13th man there. Joshy looks like he's our backup for the middle order, most likely, unless we lose one of our openers and they'll make some decisions from there, but he's in the squad right now. He's averaged 23 in ODIs, which he hasn't played any tests yet, but since 2020-21 season in Shield cricket, he actually averages 57.83, which is incredible, and he's currently averaging 70 in Shield cricket this season, which is why he's been pushed into this, into the squad, into this 12th, 13th man type of role, and I think he deserves being here. A lot of people just see him as more the white ball player, but he's averaging incredibly well over the last 4 seasons. So congrats to Josh. And then Scotty Boland, you got 5 wickets against India at 27.8, and he averages 12.2 in Australia in 12 innings. What a man, the GOAT, the MCG GOAT. So we've got plenty of guys that can come in and do an awesome job if we happen to lose anyone in the batting stocks or the bowling stocks, in my opinion, when you can slot a Josh Inglis into the middle order and you can slot Scott Boland in as a pacey, and then you've got guys like Todd Murphy who can come in and do an awesome job as well. So they're all the keys for Australia and all the stats that we've got there. And for India, a couple of concerns, obviously, and that's going to come through the way that they've been currently playing, and also a few of these guys, their averages in Australia or their lack of experience in the test team in general or playing in Australia. Apart from a few of these guys like Rohit and Kohli, a lot of these guys haven't played too many matches in Australia, whether it's, there's a few there, like guys like Rishabh Pant has been here as well. You've had Shubman Gill have a really good time. But looking at Sharma, who has one of the larger arrays of innings in Australia, he actually only averages 31, which is pretty tough there. And he has a 33 home and away record against Australia and a 42 average overall. So currently out of form. Will he come to Australia and do a really good job? That remains to be seen. You have Yash Jaswal, averaging 56 in his current career in 26 innings, which is pretty crazy. 19 innings at home he's had so far. So it'll be interesting to see him out here for the first time. And he didn't fire it in South Africa, which, some more similarities to Australia than that of Indian wickets anyway, but he is coming into this series in good form overall. But again, that last, three test series against New Zealand, not a lot of their players were able to do too well, which shows that, there's a bit to prove from a lot of these guys, especially those that haven't played in Australia before. Shubman Gill, likely at about 3 here. He is going to come over feeling pretty good about himself, coming back into their test team, scoring some good runs. And he averages 52 in his 6 innings in Australia. So he had a really good time last time out. A 44 average home and away versus Australia and 36.73 average in all tests. So if we can get him closer to that number, that would be great rather than the 52. We know that's a short sample size and things can change pretty quickly. But hopefully we don't let him settle in and we can get him out cheaply in the first innings, and then we can build on that throughout the rest of the test series. Virat Kohli will likely come in at 4. He's had an interesting run of things in recent history. He's pushed down his overall test average to 48, which, again, it's in line with the drop is in line anyway with a few of the guys that we just spoke about from the Australian team anyway. So not everyone here is getting away from the limelight in terms of their ability to push back into that higher averages. They're all under the microscope, I should say. And they all need to improve. So, Virat Kohli is definitely one of those guys, but he averages 54 in Australia. So he'll come in with a lot of confidence, 47 against Australia overall. So I think he's the big danger man. If we can get him out a few times early, I think that will continue to build that pressure, and we may fold him. But if he gets one good score in that first test, I think he'll be back into a swing of things and he'll be good for the rest of the time. Big danger man, obviously, as we know, forever, for most of our lifetime. Rishabh Pant averages 62.4 in Australia in 12 innings. He was an absolute beast last time he was here. So it's guys like Shubman Gill, Pant and Kohli who have the best averages in this side. But as I said, there are still a few concerns with how they're playing and how their averages are overall. But he averages 44 in tests overall. So there's a couple of these guys that have a better average in Australia. And hopefully we can turn that around. We then have a bit of a decision in their number 6, with Pant moving up to 5 there, with Sarfaraz Khan, KL Rahul. Rahul's played a lot of games in Australia, 19 innings at that, averaging 50. So I think there's a higher chance that they pick Rahul just based on that alone. Well, they should, in my opinion. And he averages 50 versus Australia in 19 innings and 44.8 in 9 innings in Australia against them as well. So that's still a really good average, batting at 6 in this side. And Sarfaraz Khan has 11 innings at a 37 average. So less chances at this level. I do think Rahul should be picked, but we'll see how they play that one out. All right, one of the GOATs of cricket in general is Ravindra Jadeja. Some of the best records with bat and ball for an all-rounder. Obviously nowhere near that of a Jarks Callis or anything like that, or a Garfield Sobers, but Ravindra over has been pretty close to the best all-rounder in recent history. And with the bat, he averages 43 in his 5 innings in Australia and 28 overall. Batting at 7, really, really solid there for sure. Averages 35 overall in all tests. And then with the ball, he averages 21.78 in Australia and 19 against Australia home and away, which is absolutely wild. Same areas as, 19 home and away, which is pretty crazy. Almost the same areas as that of Pat Cummins. You can almost say that he has a better record than Paddy. He definitely does against Australia here compared to Paddy's against India, which is just wild to see. So he's always been the guy that we struggle against. But it's a little bit easier for us against him in Australia, averaging like 17 or whatever it is in India and 21.78 in Australia, but he's still gonna be really tough to face over here in Oz. He does a great job. We have Nitish Kumar Reddy or Harshit Rana, who Rana sounds like he's the better batter, so potentially gets picked to bat at 8 behind Jadeja there, just to give a little bit more starch to their batting lineup. But both players are untried at test level, so we'll have to see those guys and how they look in that first test if one of them gets picked. We have Jasprit Bumrah coming in next there. Average of 21 versus Australia in 14 innings, and that's all in Australia as well. So he sits there with Jadeja as the 2 best bowlers in this side, and they're going to be 2 that we need to focus on to make sure we get right playing against them. So he's an incredible player, continues to do great stuff, and he's definitely someone we need to watch in Australia. Gets good bounce, and just is an incredible bowler in general. And then Akashdeep, he's moved into this side in recent history. He has 8 innings, all in India, at an average of 25.8 with 10 wickets. So a really solid average to kick things off, and it'll be interesting to see how he plays over in Australia. Now you have Mohammad Siraj there. Averages 34 versus Australia in 12 innings, but 29 in those games in Australia. So still a really solid average if you're comparing that to a couple of the Aussie bowlers or comparing him closer to Stark, then that's a nice comparison there as well. So they're the guys you need to look at in their bowling lineup. I think that in Australia, apart from Jadeja and Bumrah, there's probably a little less to be stressful about. And you've got guys like Ashwin, who might be a 12th man type of play here. If they only play with the one spinner, it will be Jadeja. And Ashwin hasn't gone as well in Australia as well. So we'll see how that one plays out. It's still obviously a week away. We haven't got final teams or anything like that yet. But I just wanted to go through my thoughts on how, a preview of how the whole series could look and which players we're looking at bounce backs or which guys we're worried about form-wise on the other side and the guys that are doing well in both teams. So super fun little way of going through this for me. A lot of study went into this, and I hope you guys appreciate that one. So thanks so much for being here for this, and I'll continue to do some previews and reviews of the Australian Test series along with the BBL. I'll be focusing on through this Aussie summer. Thanks for being here, guys, and we'll see you in the next video.